how you can use that to create a variety of different textures that may be useful in addition to the elevation map. There's an intensity level here we can change as well. That's the intensity for the Sobel filter, the edge detection. And of course that can create total chaos, or it could be exactly what we're looking for. All right, so let's give it something like what was it, about 9 here without shading, with shading. Let's go back to the difference kernel, with shading, without it. There's a smoothing option. So you have your way here, and enjoy the possibilities here to make it just very different from one look to another. Intensity 3, 33. Ooh, I like that. Let's go 22. Let's compromise a little. And yeah. Alright, so that might be an interesting high prairie look at the top here. You have some greens, you have some browns and rocks showing, and then near the bottom of the valleys, you maybe have some water there. Alright, so that's yet to be seen if we'll actually use it that way, but it's definitely a possible outcome of that, the possibility. So let's go back to this one, and this time we'll go to the next. Okay, so we have stylize, we have render. Let's go. There's a couple of renders. Perhaps the most frequently seen, I don't want to say popular, but the most frequently seen that we've seen here is dread plating and plasma noise. Dread plating because we want to create cityscapes, but many times without the weathering. So we'll just take the weathering away, and then we have blocks here. These are blocks that will look like city blocks. Right, so we can easily create sort of a whole landscape of an elevation map for a landscape of city blocks. And in fact, I'll add to that simply by using a regular brush, a simple brush even, something like that. Make it black, so it's the primary color here already. And I'm gonna go and use a line tool, the linear tool, to say draw this from here to here. And then we have a couple of lines that go just across those bright parts, and that way we will have parallel streets or avenues, and we may even have some vertical ones. All these are going to be at lowest elevation, and we even have like in New York, a Broadway going across diagonally, because that's the way it is. And so we have sort of a city block that way. And that will be looking really interesting for something that might look like a city block. So it's an elevation map for now, and I'll simply store that one as well. Go back to this. And what else could we possibly render? Of course, plasma noise. Right? So the plasma noise is really fascinating in itself, but also in combination with others. And in fact, I'm going to show it on this one. So I'm going to load this one. I have it here already. I'm going to go to the swap image, and I'm going to load the plasma noise into that. Render plasma noise. And I'm just going to use the default plasma noise. We might want to make it seamless, play with that a little bit. Okay, so here's a plasma noise, and so many more things you can do with it. But let's switch back to this one and now displace it. Right, so we have this image displacing this one. This is how that works. You go to the filter, and I'm kind of leaping forward here, displace by swap, displace, right? And now you see the plasma noise kind of affecting or controlling the image underneath it. So that's a cheat because I stepped ahead of the series. I'm going to go back now and finish the render. Let's see, perhaps one more. Cold lava looks pretty cool. Brick textures, star fields. Mandelbrot, so many things. More raindrops. Since we have raindrops and a photograph here, might be interesting to actually have some raindrops. And here they are. Now there's plenty more raindrops you can have. You can put the light source one way or the other and have it recalculate that. And you can change the refraction, change all sorts of parameters. Let's just use the default here. And then also maybe add a little bit of brightness. Those bright spots we have here, specular highlights, maybe we want to use them to add sort of a star or a star filter. We'll take that and add a little bit of glow. If you want it more crisp, you actually use a tool. There's a tool here in the gradients, and that tool is either the Nova tool for individual stars with a little bit of a bloom. That might look like this. Let's say 6, or let's do 8. And the colors, let's make the primary color kind of a purplish, something like this. There you go. And the secondary color, something like, I don't know, greenish or cyan, something like this. Alright, so as you go over these bright spots, you can simply click on them and drag around. And some of them will be, and you choose which color you want, right? You could put them both there. Right? But you can make them small, you can make them big. There you go. Alright, and you probably will want to have them particularly in one area, kind of focusing on where the light source is kind of located above it. And then the ones that are nearby are bright also, not quite that bright, but the brightest ones are right there where the light is. And then of course you might also choose a different type, which is the lens flares, which add additional reflection to the camera that we are pretending to watch this through. So there's all sorts of chaos and mayhem happening here. Alright, so that's another fun one to explore. Let's go back to this. I'm gonna go back to the next filter now. Render, we done. Animated. Now, this is not an animation. Why would we use animated? Well, there is a lot more to it than actually animating it. Many of these filters can be used to render or to animate a series of images and then really go back to picking just one. You don't have to use them all just because you have them. I know it's kind of a wasteful attitude, but you could essentially do something like stabilization, neutrons, water caustics. I don't know which one of these is going to look good enough for us to be really happy with it. But let's see. Let's OK that and see if that renders. Oh, I didn't do a test render. We should do a test render. So let's go animated, water ripple animation. Nope, that was the water. The other one. Animated water caustics. Test render that. Okay. So you have a number of parameters here, some presets, chromatic, and some of them take a little longer to calculate. And with that, you may even perhaps use that to create sand dunes, elevation maps for sand dunes, that is. So I'm going to keep this one because that could potentially prove to be interesting for sand dunes. Let's go back to this. And you can always combine the two, right? You can click this and say, let's combine it in I don't know, screen mode, and so you have a little bit of both. Now, if you have these sand dunes on top of the hard rock, underneath it was the original image here, and then you kind of combine the sand dunes as an elevation map. That looks really good. All right, so let's see what else we got. We probably have a few more. Well, there's so many more to render here. Shaggy star thingy, L systems. Whirly noise, one of my favorites for sure. I think this is something better used in animated forms, but even in static mode, really beautiful things. And this can be used to create stormy looking clouds. I mean water, stormy looking seas. And then there's all sorts of aberrations. And I'll let you play with that. It's beautiful. You know what? No, I'm going to render. Where was it? Animated whirly. Boom, 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 boom. Where is my whirly noise? I thought I had it just there. Was that under render? Oh yeah, it was. Okay. Whirly noise. Let's go and render it. One more time without inversion. There you go. I like this rocky appearance, and I want to combine it with this. And this time I'll be the cheap one here. I'll just do kind of a blend between the two. Not exactly the best necessarily, but it does one of the effects we may be looking for. And then just keep that, and of course expand the dynamic range. Alright, moving on, we have animated. We have been there already. There's perhaps one more. We can do the particle modeler. Now, the particle modeler is really a filter by itself. You can use it for along an animation. I'm going to say no, I want it just on the current image. You can add a sphere. You can see that sphere from different views, and then you could say get ready to render. Click that, and now you have a 3D cloudy